My name's Gavin Maxwell, and I'm aiming to break as many Guinness World Records as I can in 2024. I've no idea how I'm going to do it, or even what records I'm actually going to break, but please join me on this adventure to become officially amazing. In this episode, I'll be explaining how my obsession with record breaking all started. I'll be discussing why I think that being autistic and having ADHD could help and hinder me with my ambitious goals. And I'll attempt to break my first world records on this quest. So what on earth led me to become a 38-year-old man striving to be the fastest human ever on a Spacehopper? Well, this whole obsession probably started one Christmas. I remember getting the famous Guinness Book of World Records as a present and being totally consumed by all of the interesting facts about wild animals, space, technology, learning about absolute feats of endurance from people from all over the world, seeing that person who could pop their eyes out of their head, and the dude who ate a plane. Yeah, I'm serious. And who remembers being grossed out by the man with the longest fingernails? Tell me you didn't wonder how he wiped his bum. I think from there, my interest in world records grew even stronger from classic TV shows like Record Breakers with Cheryl Baker and Chris Akabusi. What a show, what legends, what a theme song. And let's not forget Prime's Saturday night television, Guinness World Records, hosted by Ian Wright, another legend. I adored these programmes, they completely captivated my imagination. I'd always watch in amazement at the record breakers featured. At times, I was completely in awe of their skills and talents. And at other times, I was just lost myself in daydreams, thinking about how I could break a record or how I could be the best in the world at something. I went to drama school, shout out East 15. It's kind of like university, but just for show-offs. My interest in world records was reignited again. I remember sitting in the computer room on MySpace. Remember that? Shout out Tom. And I read an article about a man named Peter who wanted to break the record for the most amount of people with the same name gathered in the same place. I said to my friend Jason Blackwater. Jason Blackwater. Remember his name, he's really important to this story. That I would change my name to Peter Peterson. I was living in the city of Peterborough at the time, and therefore I would be the most qualified Peter ever. Surely, no? Jason was really supportive and encouraged me to start this adventure immediately. But this valiant claim was crushed as I realised quite quickly that Ashrita Furman held the most records. And this would be almost impossible. I lost momentum and I shifted my focus elsewhere. As an adult now, I still feel way overawed and utterly inspired by humans that go out of their way to push their skills, natural talents, and endurance to the limits. Whether that be to prove something to themselves, or to others, or to just be the best, the fastest, the most creative, most bizarre, or just the most amazing at a certain thing. A few years ago, I realised that I'm neurodivergent. I'm autistic, and I've got ADHD. Some people call this ADHD, which basically means I'm incredibly neurospicy. I probably get on people's nerves the amount I talk about this subject, but to be honest, it's really important to me. This discovery has been life-changing and totally transforming, and it helps me make a lot of sense of why I am the way I am. As an ADHDer, I'm aware of how much my brain can hyperfixate on things. Often my brain works in overdrive, completely obsessing about a new hobby, interest or fascination in order to know absolutely everything about that specific subject. This hyperfocus can be extremely powerful because it means I can channel all of my energy into advancing my knowledge or ability further in a new skill. But on the flip side, this intense level of hyperfocus can be extremely detrimental because it can cause me to block out everything else in my life, including self-care, relationships, learning, work, ultimately having a negative impact on all the things that are most important to me. At various points in my life, I've wondered what my calling is, what I can be amazing at, but a barrier to me being a record breaker has always been my erraticness, my impulsiveness and lack of executive function, which is where I can find the discipline to stay with something really hard and really tricky and it really almost impossible to figure out the steps in my head to help me get there. The the universe can work in mysterious ways, and serendipity was definitely at play. My friend from drama school, Jason, remember him? Yeah? Well, he too had recently been on a road of self-discovery, realising that he too had ADHD. Now living in Florida and working as an actor, I decided to reach out to Jason to tell him all about my record-breaking hopes in the hope that he could help me figure out where I needed to begin. I've been unable recently to shake off a foolish idea I had at drama school, and I remember specifically talking to you about it, about breaking Guinness World Records. I don't know if you remember any of that at all.
I remember exactly where we were sitting when we first talked about it.
In the old computer room.
And then we tried to break the 3 cracker challenge world record.
Did we try and break one? That's amazing. The 3 crackers.
We were sitting in Kate's backyard, and we got a sleeve of Jacob's cream crackers, and I believe we either knew apocryphally or we looked up what the record for eating 3 was, and we tried and got nowhere near it.
Oh no, that doesn't bode well. But yeah, I've been thinking about returning to this, but it's also coincided with lots and lots of time spent thinking about being neurodivergent, and I wanted to chat to you about this as well, because I know that you've posted about being diagnosed with ADHD, and actually I suppose over the pandemic that was very much a realization that I had about myself. And I don't know if you even mind talking about it as well, or happy to talk about it.
No, not at all. Actually, I've spoken to a few people about it recently. I had someone who was in one of my recent casts, a much older guy. He's in his 70s, and he finally had the realization that he might have been ADHD his whole life, and I got chatting to him about it, and yeah, I love talking about it because I just think it was so important to me to find someone who was talking about it, to diagnose it and get to a point where I can manage it, at least a little bit. So yeah, I'm always happy to talk about it.
It was absolutely wicked to catch up and reminisce about old times. It was also interesting to hear about how Jason's recent diagnosis had positively impacted his life for the better and gave him language and tools to be able to move forward productively, positively. We talked about the pros and the cons of being neurodivergent and living with ADHD. And I expressed my concerns and anxieties about how this project could be another hyper-focus that fails to materialise.
Yeah, I mean, that's always a risk, and even once medicated, that's always a risk. But I think it's what I've found is the things that have variety built in tend to be the things that stick. So I could classify being an actor, auditioning, going to, being in plays, doing that stuff, learning new skills for it, that could be classified as a lifelong hyperfixation, because I do, once a show comes in, that's my entire life, everything is geared towards that. But I don't ever be oh, I've done acting now.
Completed it.
Yeah, acting, because there's always another audition, another rehearsal process, another run to keep those keep the chemicals going in the brain.
Yeah.
And that's all about it. That's all it is. It's realizing that it's all about keeping those chemicals up. And if there's variety, then it tends to sustain. Whereas something like learning to play the guitar, the learning curve is very quick at the beginning, and then it does plateau, and then it just remains playing the guitar. So unless you unless you build in challenges like learning a particular song, having gigs to play for, a particular technique, that's when the chemicals drop down and you lose interest. If you can point the ADHD towards the things you want to achieve, then it is so useful. But I've actually, something that I've been struggling with over the last few months, and that I've noticed about myself and how it connects to my happiness and worth is that whenever anyone asks, "Oh, how are you doing? How are you? How have you been?" the first thing I always go to is how busy I am, what my next project is, what my last project was, and it's never about how I'm feeling. And that is 100% about the fact that I've spent the last 39 years delving into fully whatever I'm working on, be it professional or hobby or hyperfixation or whatever, that I haven't spent that same amount of energy on my emotional well-being.
Yeah, I'm pretty guilty of that too, man.
Yeah, because that's like there's no serotonin in that. And like,
to put it frankly.
Yeah, I mean, like, and that is essentially what ADHD is: an addiction to lost serotonin. Chemically speaking, your body's just not producing enough, or only produces it in certain situations when certain parts of your brain are firing. And so you chase down that shiny thing.
Eating three Jacob's crackers.
Like, I have to recognize I'm sad now. That's not firing the parts of my brain that is going to make that a worthy exploration for me.
I really appreciated Jason's advice about setting yourself goals and targets to aspire to. And I wanted to unpick this a little bit more in the hope that it would help me understand where I needed to begin with this challenge. How many records do I try and break? Do you know what I mean? Like that's one thing that I'm feeling really paralysed by starting the whole thing in the first instance. Because I'm like, okay, what do I do? As many as I can in a year? 10? If I won? Or does that not even matter? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's going to be a thing that's going to be unique to you, in terms of like what is an effective use of your ADHD, if you've got to put it that way. Like, what is the thing that you're going to get that passion out of? But I will say that whatever the first thing is tends to lead to the second thing, and so on. At least for me. Like, so I'll take yesterday for example. Over the last sort of 4 or 5 days, a lot's moved towards the idea that I'm going to be going to Edinburgh Fringe next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to be bringing a play that a friend of mine wrote in 2019 that we did, and then I've been trying to thinking about getting produced since then, because it is maybe the best play I've ever read, and like thinking about getting funding for it and like putting it on in New York or maybe go up to Chicago or whatever. And it came up in conversation with Megan and her dad, because it's focused around AI, which of course the world is right now. And he offered to fund it. So the last few days, my fixation has been about preparing for Edinburgh, even though it's way too early to prepare for Edinburgh. I just had a bunch of ideas that I was like, well, I've got to get these down somewhere. Otherwise, when it actually is time to start preparing, I won't remember them. So yesterday, while I was at work, I had a bit of an idea for a poster, a bit of an idea. So I wanted to be like, I wonder if it's possible to change in Procreate, a program that I've never used before, change how easy it is to change 2 letters in a word to a texture and leave the rest a single color. By the end of the day,
wow, that's sick.
What started as how do I change 2 letters in a word became an entire concept for a poster over the course of 5 40-minute breaks, because I just got that first thing going. I suspect that if you look into some world records, you'll find one that triggers something that you'll be like, well, I wonder if I can even do this.
Jason was spot on. You do sometimes have to prevent yourself and stop yourself from overthinking, and trust that one moment will lead to the next and the next and the next and so on, and that over-planning can be incredibly paralysing for ADHDers. So with that, I found 4 records that sounded fun, gathered a group of mates, and decided to see what would happen. We set ourselves up at Bracknell Leisure Centre's athletics track, which my father-in-law Stephen tells me was the venue for an important historical moment. Hopefully though, we'd fare far better than the former English international footballer and manager, Geordie legend Kevin Keegan did on an appearance on the late 70s BBC programme Superstars. For our first record, we decided to see if we could break the record for the fastest 100 metres with an egg and spoon. The record's currently held by Australian Sally Pearson, who managed this in a jaw-dropping 16.59 seconds. This makes sense considering Sally is an Olympic gold medalist in the 100-metre hurdle event.
Ready, set, go. Oh.
This record-breaking event didn't go particularly well, for anyone really. I started off quite well, but was the first casualty in losing their egg. The person who came closest was Cam, who could yet have a career in egg and spoon racing. I think the real winner though was my joyful daughter Effie, who was having so much fun, she just decided to yeet her egg in the air. Egg and spoon race, fail. Moving on, we decided to have a go at breaking the record for drinking a Capri Sun in the fastest time possible. The record's currently held by Bias Naza from India. He managed this in 8.02 seconds, making him the first person to complete the record in less than 10 seconds. Seriously impressive stuff.
On your marks, get set, go! I can't get
Yes! Completed it.
Now, my Capri Sun drinking was, well, about as good as my egg and spoon racing. Taekwondo Dan was the best at this challenge, but none of us came anywhere near to Niza's impressive record. Oh well, on to the next. The third record we attempted to smash into the stratosphere was the fastest 100 metres on a Spacehopper, which was achieved by Christian Roberto Lopez Rodriguez from Spain in 29.91 seconds on the 11th of March 2023. Christian is a serial record breaker and has previously achieved other Guinness World Record titles, such as the longest duration balancing an umbrella on one finger and fastest mile travelled balancing a pool cue on a finger. The Spacehopper record was previously held by already mentioned serial record breaker Ashrita Furman. He achieved this in 30.2 seconds. Let's see how I get on.
set, go!
Now, you'll see that I actually start off surprisingly well. Both myself and friend Will set a really strong pace, but it all goes a bit wrong.
Sourdough bread.
Oh my god! Ah! Come on! Ah! I was doing well! Shit! Oh! Ah! Ah! Come on!
Solid.
huge respect to Lopez and Furman, this record is a real leg burner. I think it could be there for the taking with some extra training and practice, but today it was beyond me. The final record of the day attempted is the fastest time to clear all the marbles in a game of Hungry Hippos with 4 players. The game was released in 1978 by Hasbro, and it was invented by World War II veteran Fred Kroll. Interestingly, Hungry Hippos was initially named Haunted House during its early development stage, but was later changed to its more recognisable title. The concept for Hungry Hippos was sparked by a visit to a zoo where Fred Kroll observed the lively and competitive nature of hippos as they raced to snatch food. The 4 hippos in the game are named Lizzie, Henry, Harry and Homer, with each hippo assigned a specific colour, orange, green, yellow and purple respectively. Now the records to clear the game in the fastest time is 9.99 seconds, held by a team of 4, Yoshiro Watabe, Kotaro Kawai, Amipi and Mayapi Kugemachi. Apologies for any mispronunciations in any of the names in this video. Please feel free to correct me down below in the comments. Now, frustratingly, we only had 19 marbles. Talk about losing your marbles. The regulation is 20, so we had to improvise by having Egg and Spoon King Cam place a marble back into the tray mid-game. We were astonished by our efforts. A new Guinness World Record! 5.3 seconds, smashing the previous record out of the water. And we are officially amazing. Now this will of course need to be verified by Guinness, which can take up to 12 weeks, and they may have some problems with our 19 marble solution. But either way, I know that this record is there for the taking, and if it isn't a green light from Guinness, then you can bet we'll be back bigger, better and stronger. If you want to see how we get on with this record, and if you want to see other records that I'll attempt, then please subscribe to the channel. And if you've enjoyed this content, then please be sure to drop me a like and let me know what records you want to see me break down in the comments.